What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm a little fired up today. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. We are a day away from the NCAA tournament proper starting, and we'll get to some specific details on that in a little bit. Like, comment, subscribe to the page. We do love that. We're going to be we're just playing with kerosene and matches today. You just should know that in advance. We know what today's show is. We know what it will do to some people who probably will join the Specs chat maybe earlier or at a time, or maybe sometimes they never join the show and today they will. Hello, we know you will be there. So we know what today is. We're going to be talking about Oklahoma. But before all that, yes, jump into the Specs chat. We'll do super chats. It's a good day for that. And we do want to remind everybody that the show is the title sponsor is the Texas Card House. And tomorrow we will be at the Texas Card House Social. We're having an Orange Bloods watch party. It's kind of like just an all day hanging out and watching March Madness the way it's meant to be. All the TVs right in front of you. The biggest, baddest, best big screen TV. And Chad, we've done the football thing.
Yep.
This is made for March Madness.
Yeah, that screen is so awesome to start with. The football version's been great, but when they told us that they could really orient it however it would be needed, it's incredible. So I think it's like eight screens across and 4 screens down, and each screen is 55 inches, I believe is the official, measurements of things, but they can make it just a big 4x1, which is all you need for the tournament. Right now, they've dedicated it to everything's on 4 networks. You'll never miss anything. And so, that's the way I'm understanding it is we'll be able to have that, TBS, TNT, CBS, True TV, all ready to go.
No, I'm excited. I'm going to be there tomorrow. Chad's going to be there tomorrow. First tip is 11:15. We will be doing the show tomorrow from Texas Card House Social, 183 Anderson Mill, my old stomping grounds. But we're going to be there all day. We literally had an Orange Blood staff meeting talking about this the other day, and Anwar was like, well, when should we show up? And it was like, whenever you want to. It's going to be the NCAA tournament. You're in Vegas. It will be bringing the sports book to you. If you've never been there before, you don't have to play poker. The poker will be ongoing. It will be there. But if you wouldn't just come, hang out, watch the NCAA tournament the way it was meant to be, and maybe, who knows, you'll do it tomorrow, and then you'll be like, where I know I'm going on Friday, assuming the Longhorns are playing on Friday night, I will be back. That's generally, that's the way Sukabel reacted. That's the way you can too. Join us tomorrow. Okay, so Chad, I've been waiting more than a week to have this show.
Yes, you have.
I wrote about this in my 10 Thoughts from the Weekend 2 weekends ago. We were going to do this on a Monday Overreaction show, and we had technical difficulties that we did figure out, by the way. It wasn't even technical difficulties. It was man-made created difficulties.
Yes.
And we solved that one. That was kind of nice to actually...
The good, easy fix. Easy fix.
That won't ever have to happen again, as opposed to a lot of the technical things that happen sometimes. And then Anwar did the show last week, and it was like his version of it. And I was like, well, we're not going to do the same show right after he did the show. So we've waited a week. It's Wednesday. And it just felt like we need to have this discussion. It's an absolute slam dunk. It will get people fired up in the Specs chat. I think it's one of these elephant in the room conversations. And maybe OU fans don't want to have it. But there's a couple of things that the hire of the general manager position that they just made. I think there's a lot of implications. And someone asked earlier this week, actually, it was over the weekend. It was like, doesn't seem like Oklahoma has a real clean flow chart, Chad. It doesn't seem like, is the general manager working for the head coach? Is the head coach working for the general manager? Are they co-pieces? we know at Texas, and I think at most universities where there's a real established head coach, the general manager is the second in command. It's not the NFL. That at North Carolina, Michael Lombardi works for Bill Belichick and not the other way around. Right. Whereas in New England, Bill Belichick had, he had superiors. And it was like a bone of contention because, he wanted the Parcells thing at times where, like, I want to cook the meal and pick the groceries. But no, in college, typically you have that. But at Oklahoma, I think, first of all, there is a little bit of an acknowledgement that they won't be in a position where a new general manager coming in March, Chad, that guy's not going to have a huge impact on this year's roster. There's only so much Jim Nagy can do. Okay? There's a couple spots I'm sure they can bring in. They'll do their best, but the cake is in the oven, and whatever OU is going to be in 2024, they're going to be. Brent Venables is on a hot seat. If Brent Venables gets fired, Jim Nagy's not losing his job. Jim Nagy is one of the elephants in the room on the Jim Nagy hire at Oklahoma. Is he's the first hire of the post Brent Venables world. That and OU's got one of those schedules again this year, and there's no guarantee that they're really going to be any better. That's a team that could be better and go 7-5 this year, and that wouldn't be good enough. And Texas is doing what Texas does, and OU feels like they need to make a change. They will then hire a new head coach. But Jim Nagy at that point would be the established general manager, and it might be one of the first real situations in college football where in a few years we'll look at it and say the chain of command at OU is that Nagy is on top of the football pyramid and that the football coach is below that. Because I think there's some real lack of clarity right now with regards to, as things currently stand, like who reports to who? Does anybody report to anybody? Is it even a 50-50 affair, Chad, would be really unique in this current setup in college football. I mean, nobody would suggest that Brandon Harris and Steve Sarkisian have a 50-50 relationship. In fact, I don't know anybody thinks that's even 90-10. Like Steve Sarkisian is the boss and Brandon Harris is great at what he does, in part because he's so in unison with Sark, but Sark is the head and the tail and the body, and everybody else just kind of comes along for the ride. Now, where I'm going with this ultimately is we've had the discussion. Why did they hire Jim Nagy? They hired Jim Nagy because they had to, that they, in doing an evaluation of their own program, and what do they need? They need somebody who can find talent under rocks. They need somebody who can find talent in places that other people aren't finding talent. They decided we're going to out-scout and out-evaluate, and this is our pathway. And I love it. Like, I love it's a great idea. I think every major program should have that. But the reality of Texas and Oklahoma and Ohio State is they don't have to find some guy at Kennesaw State that nobody knows about and might be a late round NFL draft pick if he stays where he's at, because those schools are just recruiting a bunch of super blue chips and their rosters are stacked. And presumably you've got first and second day guys at every position on the field. And that's what they've been doing in stacking and accumulating talent. I think OU has acknowledged they're not like them. You know, the whole tease last week on the thumbnail was not like us because Oklahoma is not like Texas. But the reality is OU is telling us with their decision-making, they believe the pathway for the future for them, they're not going to be able to slug it out toe-to-toe with Texas and Georgia and Alabama and the real big dogs in the SEC when it comes to recruiting. And if that is how they see themselves, if that acknowledgement, that self-awareness exists, they're in a real bad spot. And I think it is not taking us very long, Chad, to look at Oklahoma. By the way, they signed one super blue chip last year in recruiting. They signed Michael Fasusi, and that was it. And that's their problem. It's not that they can't go out and land big-time guys. It's that in the last 2 classes, they've signed a total of 3 Rivals.com super blue chips. During that time, Texas has signed like 15. And when Texas goes into the portal, when they really want to, they've been able to go get Isaiah Bond and Trey Moore and Adonai Mitchell, like top of NFL draft level type of prospects. Oklahoma hasn't been shopping from that transfer store. Oklahoma moving to the SEC, I think, is just on the football side of things, I think it's just a disaster for them. And I think the question, they are the JV. They are. And it's a hell of a thing to say out loud, Chad, because we know that Oklahoma has owned Texas for most of our lifetimes. And certainly anybody who's under the age of 30 would scoff at the notion that Oklahoma is somehow inferior to Texas based on the overwhelming amount of results that we've experienced in our lifetimes, going back to the arrival of Bob Stoops in 1999, but it really starts in 2000. But that doesn't matter. None of that matters. And if you don't ask me, close your eyes and think back to Oklahoma's season a year ago, year 1 in the SEC. They rushed the field because they beat Alabama, an Alabama team that didn't even make the playoffs. Oklahoma at a point where they're rushing the field in a bad year because they beat Alabama. They're telling us who they are.
Yeah, for their second conference win.
I don't know how they climb out of this if they can't recruit against Texas and Georgia and Alabama. And quite honestly, now you see, Florida has a head coach who's on a hot seat and they recruit like gangbusters. I honestly am really impressed with Florida and Billy Napier. And I don't know if that guy's going to make it at Florida, but somebody better hire that guy because that guy can recruit. And if you look at Oklahoma and that's not what they're doing, and they have limited natural resources on the recruiting front, and they're telling us with their actions, Chad, that who they see themselves as is value shoppers, that they're going to have to live in the portal to a certain extent, and they might not always be able to shop at Neiman Marcus in the portal, that they may have to do some Dollar Tree shopping.
Let me jump in. Let me just jump in and ask you a quick question as you've been talking that popped in my head. You mentioned early on about a perception that's out there about their flow chart or whatever. Have there been any questions and answers in terms of Venables, Nagy, or whatever, where they've talked about who's ultimately going to be in charge? Or
I
is
have
it
not
just
seen that. No.
Okay. So this is a perception based on the fact that they hired Nagy and just kind of the way people see Venables. Because my assumption would be Venables is the boss because he's the head coach.
And maybe that's the way it is right now, right? You wouldn't want to, sometimes, it's like, and I don't think that's what they've done, but, we've seen hires that are made and you go, uh-oh, someone's replacement just got, we thought this potential with Gary Patterson when he came in, and it was like, oh man, Pete Kwiatkowski, he's got to look over if there were any struggles with Pete Kwiatkowski in year 2,
right.
The feeling was Gary Patterson could just come in and he becomes a defensive coordinator. And Texas fans were so down with that when Kwiatkowski was having success, they were giving credit to Patterson. And it really had turned into what Pete Kwiatkowski's in this position where sometimes you hire a guy and you can say, It's like that scene at the end of is it at the end of Avengers Endgame when Thor hooks up with the Guardians of the Galaxy?
It's one of those movies.
And he's with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's like, okay, like, where are we going? And what's his face is like, hey, it's my ship.
This is my deal. Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, no, we all know it's your ship. And like all of the other characters are like, it sounds like there's going to be a battle for like who leads the ship. And it's like, no. He's the leader. And he's like, yeah, I'm the leader. And Thor just sits there and agrees with him. And yet nobody actually agreed. Like nobody really believes that Thor isn't the leader, no matter how much they all want to say otherwise. I think there's a little bit of that going on because I'm telling you, the way this thing would be set up, if Venables loses his job when the new guy comes in, the advantage that they would have in that situation, they really hit the ground running. New guy comes in and Nagy's like, we already have it figured. Like we have the answers of targets, who we need to be going after. At that point, you're talking to Nagy about the type of head coach that fits what his vision of talent is. I think long-term, Jim Nagy is the front man of the OU football program. And look, what do we also know about Oklahoma? Their history as a university is to hire assistant coaches, and then like they want to hire the next up-and-coming Venables, DC. Lincoln Riley hired him when he was the OC. Bob Stoops hired him when it was a DC. You have to go back to Schnellenberger really to go to a guy who was like, we hired a head coach. But they've always been John Blake was an assistant coach for the Cowboys. He was just a defensive line coach for the Cowboys when they hired him there. So their history, the last 4 hires have all been hire a young up-and-comer. They're trying to shoot for the moon and hire the next big thing before they become the big thing. You're much more likely, if that's your type of hire, to slide that guy in and say, we've got a general manager who's already done all of the work. To a guy like Lincoln Riley, when he's an OC taking a job, or a Venables when he's taking a job, or a new guy who is a coordinator somewhere and he's 40 years old, and he's taking that job, you're much more, I think, inclined to be like, cool, we have a general manager. We actually have an assistant general manager now. They just hired another guy with NFL scouting ties who's going to be serving under Taylor Redd. And then I started thinking, who is Brandon Harris's assistant? I started asking all these questions like as OU is beefing up. I think if, on the other hand, OU were to, let's say, hire, I don't know, who's the head coach? Let's say they were going to make a move for like Brent Venables. Not Brent Venables, but Dabo.
Okay.
Hypothetical Dabo, okay?
All right.
Dabo's bringing in his own guys. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that Dabo Swinney has taken a job anywhere where he's like, okay, cool, we got a general manager, but he's not telling me, he's not dictating who we're taking. I will dictate to him what, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think Jim Nagy moving forward, long-term wise, I think he's going to be in control. And in being in control, we know what his skill set is. And I think it's fascinating that Oklahoma is hitching its wagons to this. I think it's actually really smart. I actually think it's really forward-thinking. They're gambling that this is a pathway of building a team that they can be the best in the country at, and they better be the best in the country at something, because in terms of talent acquisition, they've been left in the dust by Texas. This is not about 2020 or anything that happened before then. This isn't about anything that happened in the Big 12. OU and Texas agreed to join the SEC. The thing that's happened between Texas and OU in the time that they've joined the SEC is that Steve Sarkisian is a nationally elite recruiter. And in the blink of an eye, it's stunning how quickly they're in the conversation with Ohio State and Georgia in terms of total overall roster talent composition. They have 2 peers. That's it. And Oklahoma is, in a place now where they're doubled and tripled in terms of elite prospects. Now, look, later in the year, 24/7 will put out their blue chip percentage list. And this is the difference between why you listen to me and why you don't listen to some of these fake ass recruiting stats that get thrown out there. No offense, 24/7. It's not personal. I just literally hate how you do your thing. They do their blue chip percentage based on guys who are 4 stars. So they'll have Oklahoma. I think last year they had Oklahoma ahead of Texas on the blue chip percentage chart. Now, we saw those 2 teams play all season long. We saw what happened at the combine. In the end, did having a bunch of 4 stars matter? Or did having a bunch of guys
that matter?
That matter. And I would point, and I think what OU is telling us is that 24/7 blue chip percentage thing, it does not matter. We know we are talent deficient. Now, they know they're really talent deficient because when they went into the portal this year, they did have to go Dollar Tree shopping. And I'm not judging them, Chad. You do what you got to do. But understand this. Texas and Georgia and Ohio State, they never have to go Dollar Tree shopping. And it is the one thing that if you were talking to Steve Sarkisian or Kirby Smart and you said, how come you guys haven't hired a Jim Nagy? And you'd go, well, because with all due respect, we don't want our left tackle coming from Delaware State and being maybe an NFL guy. We want our left tackle to come from, that pool of rivals, 5 stars. How about there? How about we'll go try and get Felix Ojo, and you guys go shop at Delaware State. Now, look, you shop at Delaware State because you have to. You go to Kennesaw State because you have to. That's where you go where the talent is. You do what you got to do. But the biggest dogs in the SEC are not acquiring talent that way. And what OU may be telling us is their future, they're just not like Texas. They're not like Georgia. They're not like Alabama. They seem to be acknowledging that on some level. They're telling us we're going to be about evaluation. We're going to be about finding guys that other people aren't finding. That's why we've hired Jim Nagy. It is the rawest, truest form of confession that they know who they're not. And very quickly, if they're not going to absolutely get left behind in this new world order that they find themselves in. Because what they've always been able to count on is it's just them and Texas as the big dogs. And Texas has just been wasting we know what Texas did. They wasted half a generation of just pissing in the wind. And while Texas was pissing in the wind, all Oklahoma had to do was keep an arm's distance from Oklahoma State, from Baylor, from TCU. And for the most part, they did that really well. The dynamics don't exist. If Texas pisses in the wind in the SEC, that just means they fall back to the pack of Oklahoma, but you still have these monsters. Oklahoma has to be a monster to truly be a varsity team in the SEC on the level of a consistent playoff team. This hire of Nagy is telling us how they think they have to operate to get there. And it is not how Oklahoma was built in the 80s, not how really Oklahoma was built at the height of the Bob Stoops teams. The only way the OU can circumvent this, Chad, in my opinion, They have to hire an absolute head coach rock star that can get Oklahoma to recruiting at a national level every single year. And it's doable, but it is not how they typically operate. I mean, I can't ever think of that. They've never done that. And it's not even really how they operate in any sport. Think about what they did in men's basketball recently. Where did they go to hire a head basketball coach? They went to a really small school, but found a guy who'd been really successful. They like to find guys under the radar or guys that aren't necessarily Power 4 conference head coaches, and they like to catch them on the way up. The only way, though, that you can change the recruiting dynamics the way they currently exist is to be able to recruit nationally elite. If they had a guy like Deion Sanders as their head coach, that's such a game changer from what he could potentially do, that could change Oklahoma overnight into a type of team that could become a varsity team. But Brent Venables is not good enough. He's not. Can't do it. And the history shows that's not who they hire as a head coach. That how many of those type of head coaches exist in college football that could instantly make Oklahoma nationally super relevant, where they're getting kids in all over the country, elite of the elite guys. It can be done. Bob Stoops has done it. Lincoln Riley has done that, certainly at the skill positions on offense. But it will take a rock star, and they don't have that in Brent Venables, and it remains to be seen whether or not they can pull that off in a next hire. So, yes, the title of the thumbnail is "Has OU become the JV?" They are the JV in football, man. And I think they're a long ways away from getting out of that position.
Catch, I want to know what you think of this. Texas boy said that's why Lincoln went to USC. He saw it coming. To your point about needing that next big head coach, they do, and I agree with you. It needs to have a certain feel to it. This would feel a lot different if Lincoln Riley was still there.
I agree.
Right? I mean, this would be a very different discussion.
Brent Venables is a failure. And OU is kind of doing the thing right now that Texas is with Rodney Terry. He's one of their own in a way. He's incredibly likable. That will be the thing with OU, that if and when they have to make the move away from Brent Venables, they'll hate doing it. They will. They'll hate it. They really want Venables to succeed because he's a callback to a better time when OU was the thing that they aspire to be now. And he was there for that.
Yeah.
And I think that they are going to have to operate differently than they have in the past. And I think what's really interesting is I think the athletic director who makes this hire is telling us they've revealed their cards. They have. They've told us at least one of their whole cards is Jim Nagy. And Jim Nagy's profile reads different than every other general manager at every other major. If you look at him versus Brandon Harris, they're not the same guy. Go to Georgia, go to Ohio State, go to Michigan, go to USC. You can go pretty much all around the country.
What about Carolina?
North Carolina is a perfect example of where we have seen this type of hire.
So that feels the same to me, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Jim Nagy is a poor man's version of Michael Lombardi.
Okay.
But it is the same idea. Lombardi just has a much bigger track record, and is a little different than Nagy in the sense that Nagy's real reputation is he recruits for the Senior Bowl. So part of what he has to do for the NFL is go find those guys under rocks. Let me go find them. If I bring them here, it really adds value to what we do all week long because the NFL won't have seen these guys. So, he builds his reputation off of, the guys they get at the Senior Bowl, they find those guys. They got to go do that. But that's, we spent a lot of time talking about comparing a guy like Brandon Harris to Jim Nagy, and they're just completely different. And we had this conversation, and I will continue to maintain, if you're Texas, it would be invaluable to have a guy like Jim Nagy in your program. Like, you need that guy. You need someone of that quality to be leading your scouting department, really and truly. This can't continue to be something that Steve Sarkisian does in December. There's just so many things going on. You need a guy like Jim Nagy that Steve Sarkisian can go, well, this guy knows what he's doing. He's not going to waste my time. But the hire of Nagy, again, and look, they go out and got this guy, Taylor Redd, to be his assistant general manager. Again, a heavy NFL scouting background. If I'm not mistaken, there's some NFL front office background there. Like, they're hiring an NFL kind of modeled front office in their football program. And again, you watch, in a year from now, we're going to look at the OU football program with some real clarity, because at worst, it'll be 50-50. Like, Jim Nagy is the first hire of a post-Brent Venables world. There's just not a post-Brent Venables world yet, which kind of makes that uncomfortable. And it almost feels like Venables has to prove that he can keep his job and stay employed next to Nagy. I think Nagy is so safe. They hired Jim Nagy, and I promise you, he asked, man, like, what? Like, I'm coming here for what guarantee? Because have you seen the schedule? Have you seen your team? Have you seen your head coach? I don't know if that guy is any good. If I come here and in a year from now, I'm out of a job, what have I done? They made that hire, and they told that dude, Jim, hey, we know what we may have to do. You're going to probably help make that hire for us. And your opinion will matter. Your thoughts on who can share your vision of building a football program from like a scouting department and everything. Like Nagy knows, and it never has to be said. So they can ask all they want to about what does the football pyramid look like. And Brent Venables could bow up at SEC Media Day and go, what do you mean? I'm the head coach, right?
I'm boss.
And Nagy can just sit back like he's Thor, riding with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and just be like, oh, yeah. No, he's right. It's his ship. And it'll just be like that until it's not anymore.
Texas boy, I see your super chat. We will get to it. Thanks to almost 400 of you that are in the specs chat right now. Catch, let's give them a little rogue shop information on this Wednesday. I know it helps you. It can help a whole lot of people, and sometimes it's within arm's reach. I feel like it's about to be.
Look, the other day,
did we get the drawer fixed?
I did. Well, no, it's not fixed.
Oh, okay.
But it's open in a way where I don't have to get scissors to pry the door open.
Okay.
Because the thing is, like, I got this desk. I got this desk at Louis Shanks back in the day. Remember Louis Shanks?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even doing a furniture commercial anymore because they don't exist anymore. Although maybe they got a San Antonio store. I don't know. But it was like a big old swanky store, and I bought this desk, and like, this thing is wood. And like, the bottom drawer, when it shuts, is shut. And the handle broke off, and I couldn't open it up without a pair of scissors. Just like jimmy it open.
Yeah.
By the way, how do jimmies feel about jimmying being a word? I don't know. Yeah. I once told a guy named Jake that, have you ever heard about someone jaking something? And he did not heard that. And then I didn't really want to explain to him what I had always been told jaking meant. Sorry about that, Jake. And to all the Jakes out there. But so I got the drawer open, Chad. And you're talking about making somebody's day better. My mom was like a little orphan child. Please, sir, could I have a little bowl of porridge? What she was asking for porridge, she was like, do you have a Rogue Shop cartridge? And I was like, yes, Mom. Thanks to Richard and Shar and the amazing people at Rogue Shop. I'm making your life better right now. Here you go. Her day was made. Tell them I love them. Tell them I love their product. Tell them I couldn't make it through the day without them helping take my headaches away and helping me relax. And like, she loves Rogue. She uses the salve. She uses a little bit of everything. You just need to go to the website, rogueshop.com, shop around, check out the products. They are Texas's home for legal TBC or THC. What is it? Now I'm getting my THC, CBD, and more. Too many initials sometimes. But anyway, yeah, that's how we do that. I may have partaken about it earlier, and so I'm rambling now.
Yeah, it's okay.
Have you ever heard about that? Have you ever heard jaking something?
Yes, I have heard that.
So, okay, so you've heard that.
Oh, yeah.
So did you? So I worked in television with a guy named Jake. Mm-hmm. Jake Downey, shout out. Great dude, by the way, lives in California, long time. He's got one of the great all-time TV stories. He got a job at KI by just refusing to take no for an answer.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He literally showed up and was like, put me on camera, coach.
Yeah.
And the news director had put his resume tape in a pile of no's. But nobody else showed up and said, put me in, coach. And he won the job. And quite honestly, it's one of the most awe-inspiring things I've ever seen. But while I worked with Jake, I did say, hey, are you insulted if I don't remember how I brought it up, but I said jaking. He claimed to have never heard that before, which made me feel shitty, Chad.
I don't know if
I just assumed that every Jake would have had heard that.
Yeah, I don't know if it has something to do with the name itself. I've always thought the fact that it rhymes with snake might have, led people down that road.
When I say someone jakes something, what does that mean to you?
Isn't jaking like stealing something? Or is it messing something up?
Yeah, it's messing something up.
It's screwing it up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You jake it. All right. So I think I've heard it maybe referenced as maybe taking something. That's where I thought maybe it was like somebody just used it as a rhyme for snake. But anyway, we digress.
I'm sorry to all the Jakes out there.
Texas boy, I said I would put it up, and thank you. If it was just a donation there, $4.99. We did read a chat earlier, so maybe you thought you needed to pay for that. We appreciate you. Thank you. And to anybody else who wants to throw a little something in the tip jar, we do appreciate that. Cotton had an interesting comment about Nagy. Nagy assembled a Senior Bowl roster that nobody watched. We'll do the same at OU. That's one way to look at it, I guess. That would be interesting.
NFL teams look at it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They watch. They do, I promise.
Certain will watch. Catches, I was, thinking about the show today. Your reference to what's coming next for OU, it's going to be wild to watch. Like you said, when Nagy walks in, have you seen that schedule? Have you seen the situation they're in? It's unexpected in a lot of ways. And I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple things. First, let me go to the team rank.
The other thing, Chad, the other wild card that always, because full transparency, back in 2009, I wrote an article. It was maybe September 1st, 2009. Maybe it was even August 31st. It was immediately after, I think it was BYU that OU opened up the 2009 season and they lost, and Sam Bradford separated his shoulder. And I had written an article that said the worm had turned, that Texas in 2009, early in that season, that Texas had taken control of the Texas OU rivalry. Context is everything, because you got to remember what happened in 2008, where OU loses to Texas, but plays ahead of Texas and wins the Big 12 championship and plays in the national championship game. They lose that game to BYU. And I kind of declared that in that moment that Texas had just taken control of things, right? Now, what followed, because I think this is a really important point. Because this goes to is OU forever destitute in its JV status? They're JV today. Do they always have to be JV? Back in 2009, I wrote the Worm Has Turned article. What happened immediately after I wrote that article? Texas beat Oklahoma for the 4th time out of 5 years. They won the Big 12 championship. They played in a national championship. They finished with a top 3 recruiting class. Like, if you're checking boxes, that's a bunch. 4 out of 5 in the rivalry, won the Big 12, played in a national championship, was recruiting at a level that Oklahoma hadn't. Trust me, after the 2009 season, there was no OU fan who was raising up the Worm Has Turned article, which I wrote, 15 years ago or 16 years ago, like waving it in my face and saying, ha! But you fast forward like 10 months later, and in the 2010 season, like Texas discombobulated, right? And then OU, the worm turned again. And OU fans will like to act like I wrote the 2009 article and somehow jinxed the Longhorns. As if writing an article in September and then in October, Texas winning the 4th out of 5 times, winning the Big 12, national championship, the recruiting class, as if none of those things ever happened. They like to pretend that for basically like a 14-month window that none of that happened. The worm can turn over and over and over again. The dynamics for Oklahoma that could potentially raise themselves out of JV status. There are 2 things. One, we've already talked about. Rockstar head coach changes the dynamics of where they're able to shop. You can get a head coach that has you shopping at Neiman Marcus on the regular. That changes who you are. The other thing is, and this is the thing for Oklahoma that I think maybe they'll cross their fingers, that they'll hitch their wagons to the most. In college football, if you truly have a difference maker at quarterback, that is the tide that lifts all boats, even if only temporarily, right? I mean, we've seen programs can be elite at quarterback. You lose the quarterback, there is a decline. But we know that Oklahoma, for most of the last half generation, has lived with elite quarterback play. One Heisman winner after another, one Heisman finalist after another, one first-round draft pick after another, one NFL starting quarterback after another. They haven't had that in the last few years. They'll hope that the guy that they just pulled from Washington State can be a difference maker. I mean, he wasn't really that at Washington State. He was okay, he's pretty good, but he wasn't elite. But they'll hope that upgrade will lift them up. If they have an elite head coach or they find a quarterback that can be elite, that is the thing that in any given year can turn the JV to the varsity thing on its head. But those are their 2 get-out-of-jail cards and short-term solutions. And even then, we know that Oklahoma with a badass quarterback, when at their very best, when they had the best quarterback play that the sport has ever seen. And look, man, tip of the cap. Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, statistically, there's never been anybody better. They set the standard for what's possible statistically at the quarterback position, but then they would get to the playoffs and they couldn't win those games. They could never win a playoff game, even when they had a Hall of Fame coach, even when they had Lincoln Riley, even when they were elite at the quarterback position, because at some point, and this, Chad, will become the rub for all of these teams in this playoff era. At some point, at the end, it does become about the Jimmies and the Joes. And who has the most. Yeah. And it's just not an accident last year that really the national championship game was Texas and Ohio State. It was the game that gave in Ohio State, that was their biggest battle in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It comes down to the final couple of minutes. It's a tie game where Texas is down by 7. They got a chance to tie if they can score. OU has a NFL player / super blue chip make a super blue chip play to win the game. In the end, like the fine margins weren't like luck involved. They were Ohio State had a few more Jimmies and Joes. And at some point, Oklahoma, even with a great head coach and a great quarterback in a year where they can be varsity for a season, they get to the finish line and they still run into the same problem. So I think Nagy is the bet. I think they're hoping, you know who they're hoping Nagy is? Billy Bean. They are.
Redefine the game.
They're hoping that they've made their Billy Bean Moneyball hire and that strategically that way of building a team compared to the way, a lot of the elite programs don't have great evaluators. It's not hard to work at Texas and Georgia and go find the best players. You have to then get them, but finding the elite recruiting talent across the country is pretty easy. You could just get a subscription to all of the major services. You won't miss any of them, I promise. And Oklahoma has decided that's not who we're going to be. We're going to find talent that nobody else is finding. And we're going to do it in a way that nobody else is currently doing it. And we're going to take a chance that in 5 years or 10 years, everybody will copy us like everybody copied Moneyball. And Chad, I have to admit it. I love it. Look, I love that somebody is guinea pigging this because I love the idea. I love conceptually somebody realizing we got to find a different path. The way the Oakland A's would have looked at trying to rebuild their team when they lost their best players. And it was like, what are we doing? Are we trying to replace the player or are we trying to replace the production? Yeah. And they realized,
the difference is
the player.
The difference is, what if that baseball team had been Red Sox or Cardinals there's a brand name about OU. The A's, I guess, technically in the Reggie Jackson era, there was some history, but
I'm surprised that OU is the team that's done this.
Yeah, it feels like it could have been somebody else, but there's so much history there. That's what makes it feel weird to me.
But I think there's an insane amount of self-awareness. This is really hard for Oklahoma to cognizantly make this decision and say, this is the direction that we really need to go in. And if we're going to go into it, we're going to go hire the best guy we think that is available. I mean, I give them a ton of credit. I think OU fans will be insulted by the insinuation. And I get it because of what you're talking about. They're Oklahoma freaking football. But the reality is their roster isn't the same as Texas.
No.
And somebody inside that athletic department or program has realized that.
Yeah.
What we're doing is not going to get us ahead of the teams that we're talking about. And in year one, boy, did we find out the hard way.
Yeah, no kidding. Look, in terms of rosters, I want to ask you a question. In terms of rosters, if you guys want to throw a super chat in, obviously feel free to do that. Also, thanking some of our great partners around here. Let me slip in a little Taste on Main reference. I haven't talked about Taste on Main in a while because we were talking about Hayes City Store. These are the same people that do Hayes City Store, and they were having the free concerts out there. So we wanted to focus in on that. The concert series is over now at Hayes City Store. Obviously, invite you to go out there anytime. It's always great. But remember, they've got a steakhouse in downtown Buda, and man, it is good. I've been missing Taste on Main. They just have such a great experience with this good spring weather we've got going on now. There's inside and outside seating. There's a great outdoor, tree house kind of bar area outside. You're going to love that when the weather's right. So check them out in downtown Buda. The steaks are awesome. I always talk about the Sam Elliott's mustache, the whiskey drink. And yes, I do crave the Brussels sprouts. For some reason, I can't explain why they're so damn good to me. But next time I go, I'm going to have them. Taste on Main, downtown Buda. They also do a great brunch on the weekends. So do check them out at Taste on Main. All right. So Catch, I had a question for you in terms of just roster stuff, but if you have another point you wanted to make, go ahead.
No, I mean, I just want to say again, I think the thing, just to finish the point that you were making, I would not have guessed that Oklahoma would be one of the first guinea. I think North Carolina is a guinea pig. I think there's so much. And look, they're trying to kind of do what Oklahoma's doing. Maybe try to live in the middle, because we know that Oklahoma's going to recruit well. Are they going to recruit great or elite?
Yeah.
Like they didn't, but I leave open the possibility that the right guy could come in, not Brent Venables, but the right guy could come in and change the dynamic to some degree. But Oklahoma's not consistently recruiting the way Texas, Georgia, and Ohio State, and even Oregon now. Every single year, every year you've got between 25 and 35 super blue chips on your roster. That is how you win championships. That's how Georgia and Alabama put their run together. And the thing is, if you're Texas right now, Oklahoma's not the bar. You're not judging yourself against Oklahoma anymore. And I think when we look at the Nagy hire, some of that reaction was Texas fans are so used to, and look, we're having a real grown-up, adult, nuanced conversation about this topic, right? But like some people just hear, oh, you got something good and you're saying Texas is bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like the fan and fanatic comes out, or the fanatic and fan comes out. And I thought the guinea pigs would be more like Texas Tech and Baylor, like we would see those teams realize.
Right. Well, and to that point, if we agree that North Carolina does have that feel, like you said, it feels guinea piggish, that would tell me that we don't need to look at like recruiting rankings every year and, oh my God, where's North Carolina? That's not really going to be the point. So to Oklahoma, in the 25 class that just finished, Texas is 1, Oklahoma's 18. And between them, there are 8 SEC teams, not counting Texas. There are 8 other SEC teams between where Oklahoma is and Texas. Moving forward, do you think we're just going to be not talking about sort of where OU's ranked? I know there have been times where it wasn't critical, but can they live at that 18 kind of number with that much SEC ahead of them and still find success? Or does that need to change at some point?
Chad, it's a good question. And this is the point, okay? They can be in the top 10. They could move up from 18 to 8 this year, which sounds good on paper, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The top 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. It kind of depends. Like, are they 4 or 5 because they have a bunch of super blue chips? Okay, then they're the same, and they just took fewer guys. Like, I got to know a little bit. Like, top 5 is not the same as top 10. Top 10 is essentially the same as 18. It's actually not much different than 28. That is the point that Texas fans would lose focus and sight of when they were not winning. And people would say, but they got all these great recruiting classes. And I would say, they're not great. They're not. Great is, people got onto me for calling Shaka Smart damn good, but like great? What is great? What are we calling great? Because my definition of great is like Texas had the number 1 recruiting class in the country this year. What a great job. Texas had the number 10 recruiting class in the country. Pretty good job, I guess. Like, that would be my reaction. And Texas fans would go, Catch, what are you doing? Top 10, baby. Oh my God, you're setting the standard so high. You're such a nitpicker. It's like, no. A 4-star is like a regular. This goes back to that whole thing I was doing 24/7. Like, a regular 4-star is not the same as a high 4-star or a 5-star. They're different. And in the accumulation of those, there's just a massive gap. So the problem that Oklahoma has, 18, 8, 10, 6, 28, they're not climbing up to the elite of the elite. Are they really competing with Georgia, Alabama, and Texas right now? Because even if one of those is down, like Alabama was a year ago, Texas and Georgia weren't. That's the difference between the Big 12 and the SEC. That is a difference between, well, we'll just go 11-1 or 10-2 and worse because if Texas is down, who's going to beat us? I mean, they're just so OU is a Big 12 team right now. They are. Yeah. They are comprised and they are built like a Big 12 team. And whatever we want to say of Steve Sarkisian, every SEC coach will agree Texas came into the SEC with an SEC roster. That was code for a whole bunch of badass Jimmies and Joes, like different than everybody else. That's what that meant. That's what it means. And you know how that was validated? Because they sent a bazillion guys to the combine. So when SEC coaches were looking at the Texas roster and they were like, damn, you know what they look like? Alabama and Georgia. That's what they meant. And they don't mean anything else when they say that. They don't mean they're well coached. They don't mean, oh, they're senior laden and they play. No, they mean that when they turn on the film, they go, God damn, holy crap. That's what they mean. That those rosters, when they turn on the film, they have a bunch of guys like that. It's like, wait a minute. Did they just bring 11 off the bench? Who's that? Oh, he's a freshman. Oh, it's like, wait a minute. Whoa. Jelani McDonald, where'd he come from? Oh, he's one of their next guys. And he's just constantly that. And that's the difference. And look, that's not who Texas was 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. What I got to do, Chad, is I got to get that remember that chart that I did? The one that blew your mind? Mm-hmm. I'm going to do that for Sunday. That's my homework, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to update the Texas graphic of super blue chips that shows whoop, and it's going to show where Texas is, right? And then I'll do the Oklahoma one over a 20-year period. And when we put them side by side, honest to God, it may be the stark, most eye-opening thing either of these two fan bases have seen, and it will be the thing that goes, okay, so that's why they hired Jim Nagy. Gotcha.
If you guys want to jump in the chat or send us a super chat, we will definitely do it. Thanks to Specs for sponsoring that chat every day. Tournament time coming up. Might want to get stocked up. Here's Lisa.
As a Texas family-owned business, we know you don't mess with Texas. And you won't find more ways to raise a glass of Texas-made cheer than right here. So whatever you're planning, we're ready to get you ready. Because at Specs, the fun.
Thanks to Specs for their great partnership. Over 400 of you in that Specs chat right now. One other element, and we've maybe just mentioned it a little bit in passing, Catch, but another element to watch this next year or so. Remember, we have no idea what the SEC schedule looks like for 2026. So if you're Oklahoma, you have got to hope there's a little relief coming. It's real simple. In the standings from last year, Oklahoma's about to play 5 of the top 6. Texas plays 1 of them. I'm going to say that again. Of the 6 teams that finished the SEC at the top last year, Oklahoma has to play 5 of them, 3 on the road. Texas has to play 1. Georgia on the road.
On the road.
It is on the road, but that's where it is. And Catch, Oklahoma will play 1 team in the SEC this year that finished below them in the standings. 1. And it's Auburn. That's it. They get it at home, by the way. The Auburn game is critical for OU, and Missouri kind of is too. Missouri's a little bit above them in the rankings, but that feels like a game where we don't exactly know what's going to happen. And where maybe Oklahoma can deal with that ball game. And it's at home, by the way. But Catch, just to say something we're going to say over and over again, here's the Oklahoma schedule starting in Dallas. Texas at South Carolina. Feels a little different right now.
I mean, that's a loss.
Ole Miss at home. Tennessee in Knoxville.
That's week. That's like 3 out of 4 losses at best.
Off week at Tuscaloosa.
It's 4 out of 5 losses at best.
That is a
I'm
5-game
chance at home against Ole Miss.
That is a 5-game stretch for them. They're going to finish hosting LSU. They're going to start the year, as we've talked about, hosting both Michigan and Auburn in September. So, I mean, it's rough. But just keep in mind that in 2026, we don't exactly know where this is going. But it's been clear from day one, Day one, these two were going to get in was one thing. But when those schedules came out, it was very clear that Texas and Texas A&M both got pretty livable situations. OU did not. OU got smashed by the SEC scheduler right at the beginning. We'll see if any of that lets up in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's funny. When the schedules come out, there's almost an instant, okay, well, it'll get fair. They'll flip them, which even if he did that, there's no way to know, like, will the dynamics change in a way where suddenly you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to know in 2 or 3 years, what will be playing, like Oklahoma will change a head coach at some point. So maybe even what our vision of what OU is changes based on who that is and who their quarterback is. Again, there are yearly dynamics that can completely serve as the tide that lifts all boats to some level. Jim doesn't take that job unless it's so clear to him by those that hire him. You're not connected to this at all. You're above. It is all beneath you. If we win, fantastic. But like, we're hiring you because what we feel like we need to have in place when we make a hire. And again, they may know exactly the type of hire they want to make. What did we just talk about? Profiles of coaches that would work best in a situation where you have a general manager in place. Well, look, if OU knows they're potentially 9 months away from making a head coaching change, if you're them, if you know that in advance, you may be asking yourself in 2026, what needs to be in place for a guy to hit the ground running at an optimal level? And I think they think that's what they did with Nagy. I think they're thinking, when we hire the next guy, we're not starting from scratch. We actually have been preparing for this moment for 10 months, 9 months, and add water, instant foundation in place. You actually arrive, and all of the questions that a lot of staffs are ill-prepared for, I think, today in this environment where it's like, oh my God, I got hired in December, and real quick, while I was hiring coaches, I had to recruit in the portal and blah, 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 and finish recruiting, and it's all these things at once. Now, at least that part will be taken out. Dude, we have the best scouting department in college football. And they'll call it that. Maybe it's North Carolina, maybe it's them. But they'll sell what you're walking into is an infrastructure that, from a scouting standpoint, there's nobody better. And I think that will sound attractive. And it'll sound a lot more attractive as a guy who's never had a head coaching job before and is willing to share some power structure in the name of being the freaking head coach at Oklahoma. Because believe me, that still has cachet. Like, it's still Oklahoma. Yeah. It's just an Oklahoma in a new conference with a new set of dynamics around it that, Nebraska is still Nebraska. We still talk about them, and they haven't been relevant in decades, like really relevant. But the first time Nebraska looks like they might win 8 games, we kind of flip out nationally still.
Right. Now, to be fair, Nebraska's path was a little different because they at least had the easier side for a while of that Big Ten. So I can make an argument that their scheduling actually was designed to help them.
I'm not saying it's apples to apples. I'm just saying that
they wouldn't
Oklahoma's cachet is not going to dwindle if they suck for 20 years. It won't happen. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that being the head coach at Oklahoma is always going to mean something. That will always be a coveted job.
Yeah. And the kind of like magical thing, not magic, we know why. You mentioned Sark and other things. it's so important that Texas is in the spot they're in to enter this SEC. It's a divisionless SEC. There was an era. Think about when Missouri came in. Missouri got the benefit of being on that side of the conference. It doesn't exist anymore. Oklahoma's being fed into this meat grinder of an SEC that doesn't care about that stuff anymore. And certain teams have to have these brutal schedules. So to your point about who might be next, are they going to let that guy start with whatever? If this schedule stays tough in 2026, you're going to let a brand new coach come in and, start that out in 26? That's something you got to talk about.
Well, the wild card is, I think there's a vibe that this thing's going to move to a 9-game conference schedule. So what it won't necessarily be, because, the one thing we know about the SEC, just because you say stuff like, hey, Texas A&M hadn't played Georgia at all, like, what's up? Just because you say that out loud doesn't mean
the conference doesn't care.
They do not care. So
SEC hadn't cared about that stuff for years.
So the moment they go to a 9 games, what they won't do is go, well, when we did the 8 games, we had all of the teams, and we, now we can't just, the SEC is not going to go, oh, we can't flip them. Did you think that we thought that we were just going to flip them? Because that wasn't ever going to happen. It was never going to happen.
And that's where, again, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you probably thought the SEC was going to, you would hope, show you a little love in scheduling because you're Oklahoma, because you got some history. They didn't do that. Remember Florida's schedule last year? We talked about that forever, about how tough their deal was. But an interesting point, Catch. The difference between Florida and Oklahoma last year is 2 games. 2 games total, 2 games in conference. So
the difference
between Oklahoma and Florida.
Yeah.
Florida's thought of as a team kind of on the rise, and maybe they're pretty damn good.
On the rise because of DJ Lagway.
Yeah,
if
right.
DJ Lagway's not at Florida, I don't know that Napier even comes back.
They got one of those big ingredients you're talking about. And last year we said, if you're going to get rid of Napier, remember what schedule he's going through, and you're going to hand that schedule off to your next coach. So in a way, maybe it's fine margins. Maybe it's not that, much to overcome. And maybe they think bringing Nagy in and doing all this stuff analytically can get them those 2 wins and more. And maybe they could argue to us, hey, we played some close games last year and we'll figure this out. But they are in a hole I did not think they would be in after year 1. It's been wild to watch. Obviously, if you're a Texas fan or you're somebody like I am that just
a year ago,
it's entertaining, but I didn't think I was going to see it.
They thought a year ago that Jackson Arnold was the next guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if he was, they look different right now. That covers up a multitude of sins. But when you're not great at quarterback, and look, they weren't like they lived how Texas has lived. Oh, this is what it's like to not be good at quarterback. You thought you had expectations. You kind of liked your roster. But then you found out from week to week, you didn't know what the hell you're going to get out of that box of chocolates, but most of them were the ones with the cherries that you don't like. And you're like, yeah. That was Oklahoma for most of the season at quarterback.
Damn it, that's marshmallow.
Exactly. Sometimes you just want the chocolate in the box of chocolates just be an old piece of chocolate. But sometimes like, oh, damn it. And when you're bad at quarterback from week to week, that's what it's like. Where they could maybe be 8-4 this year is if they are good at quarterback. Did this kid from Washington State, does he elevate them to that? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And again, those tough stretches, good grief.
Is that even the bar though? Like, what does it mean if Brent Venables was 8-4 this year? What is that supposed to represent?
Yeah. Honestly,
they're not killing it in recruiting. Like it would, I think you'd go 8-4 and go, you know what? They kind of are about as good as they were ever going to get. They probably lived up to what they were supposed to be. So what does that mean? Well, they were probably pretty damn well coached.
Yeah.
They got pretty damn good play.
Catch 8 would be, I'm I'm not saying you sign for it. Would I sign for it right now if I was an OU fan? I might. Looking at the schedule I just looked at, if you assume the 3, if you assume the early 3, you got to find 5 more games somewhere.
Chad.
You got to find, I mean,
Chad.
8 would be something.
When, do you remember the reaction at Texas? Texas fans, you were doing radio at the time. I know you remember this. Charlie Strong had the gumption in 2014 before the season to say that Texas wasn't going to win a national championship that year.
I remember. Yeah.
And the fan base acted.
Oh, they lost it.
They lost it on Charlie.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, I didn't say I'd say it out loud. I just said right now, you get to 8.
And Texas fans who, you know what? They've had some 5 and 7 years where, you know what? Like in Tom Herman's first year, 8 and 4, they probably shake your hand on it right away. There are occasional blue moon seasons where you going into the season could get a Texas fan to say 8 and 4. Yes. Mac Brown never coached in one of those seasons ever. Charlie Strong was so bad that Tom Herman's first year, he could go 8. I would offer that once, because Charlie Strong took over a team that was a half away from winning the Big 12 in 2013. Mm-hmm. They almost did that. Dysfunctionally, but they almost did that.
Right. This is a team that is staring at 6
I just don't think you could go. I don't know. Show me an Oklahoma fan would shake your hand on 8 and 4 today. I don't think it's in their DNA.
Yeah, it depends on
if it's not in a Texas fan's DNA, it can't be in an OU fan's DNA.
It depends on if we say you're going to put this on social media, or I'm just going to hand you the paper and you're going to sign it, and they will win 8 games. I'll walk away and they'll win 8. You never have to tell anybody you signed.
You know what I would say as an OU fan if you told me that? Oh, you're trying to get me to bring back Rodney Terry for another season is what you're trying to do. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to, what is the minimum level of success that you can obtain where we don't have to make the change?
4 more years. 4 more years.
Not even 4 more years. It really is 1 more year.
It really is 1. You're right.
And it's more instead of 4. It's like 1
more.
1 more year. 1 more year.
That's funny. But go look at OU's schedule. You find those other 5 games for me for sure. Go find those other 5 for sure that they can get. I don't know. I don't know if I see those for sure. All right, we're over the 1 o'clock spot. We got buy or sell coming up here in just a minute. Also want to thank the good folks at Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Had some good reaction on orangebloods.com and emails and stuff from you guys about Sinus and Snoring Specialists, that you've gone in, that you've tried it, that you've met Dr. Slaughter, and that is awesome. It's the stuff you want to get taken care of. If you're like me and you're into your 50s, God help us now. If stuff is bad, sleep apnea, sinus infections, allergy stuff you can't get rid of, don't let it continue to get worse. Get it taken care of. This is the place that can do it. We're talking about over 20 years of experience, the very latest in ear, nose, and throat, and it's all about what's best for you. This isn't some cookie cutter thing where everybody gets the same treatment. The 2 people in my bed didn't get the same treatment, so I can tell you everybody's situation is different. Sinus Snoring, ENT.com, or you can call or securely text them at 601-0303. Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. Always a good idea. All right, Mr. Ketchum, are you ready to buy or sell, or did we have some other OU stuff to hit?
No, I'm good. All
right, first or second?
I'll go first.
Fair enough. Hit it.
Buy or sell number 1, the closer we get to the game, the more you think Texas wins tonight.
You know what? I'll do the opposite of what I did last time when they got mad at me. Buy. Yes, buy. The closer we get to the game, I think Trey Johnson has one of those nights, and I think it'll be enough for Texas.
Buy or sell number 2. OU will make the college football playoff in the next 5 years.
Who?
Do it just one time. Top 12. Minimum.
One time.
Maximum, I guess. No minimum.
One time into the top 12. I'm selling 5 years. Right now I'm selling. I don't feel it. It's such a hole that they're trying to dig out of right now.
Chad, I think I'm going to catch you off guard with question number 3.
Okay.
I asked myself this question earlier today, and I ended up coming up with an answer. So here it is, okay?
All right.
Buy or sell number 3.
Hang on.
Why are you touching things?
Sorry, I messed up. I thought one of mine was secretly getting put up there, and then I'm putting mine in at the same time. Sorry, put it up there again. My bad. I won't touch it.
Leave it alone.
I won't touch it.
I literally can't see your questions, so I can't be messing with them. Okay, you're good. Leave my shit alone.
I know. I'm just trying to get mine in. I forgot to
buy, because to me it looked like you were like, oh, you're looking at my questions because you're taking them down. Buy or sell number 3.
Okay.
You have a favorite Dallas Cowboys move of the offseason so far?
Sell. I'm not sure if I've had one of those. When was the last time I had one of those? No. Sell. Sell. I don't. I've heard of moves, and I laugh at them like
they
I
made
always
some
do,
trades. They traded some picks for players.
Is there one that's a favorite of yours? Do you have a favorite?
No, I don't. And that's why I asked the question.
Oh, it's a sell. I've heard of stuff. I haven't heard one that I haven't even heard one I kind of like yet, much less a favorite.
Yeah. Okay. We're in the same boat. Like there's not one move where I'm like, well, they did that, damn it. Nope.
Yep.
Buy or sell number 4. The Vikings have decided reportedly to roll with J.J. McCarthy instead of Aaron Rodgers, and you find that freaking hilarious.
Yeah, it's a buy. There's a mess going on. Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career, it's not like it's not like what Tom Brady was obviously at this point in his career, but McCarthy, I mean, you got to deal with some weird. I would take a swing at the weird. I really would. I would take a swing at the weird. I'm going to buy that. I find it freaking hilarious. This Aaron Rodgers stuff it's crazy to me, man.
It must be bad, dude.
It really must. Like, for a classy organization like the Steelers to kind of have the discussion and go, oh, okay, you need to get out. I mean, that's surprising.
It feels like that thing ended and people are going, the Jets aren't the dysfunctional one here, and we know they're dysfunctional.
Right. Yeah, that's one of those weird things. Every once in a while you have those relationships, right? It's like, well, she and Steve didn't work out, and you know about Steve, and you're like, oh, this ain't about Steve. Trust me, I dated her years ago. This ain't about Steve.
No, if we know one person is crazy,
yeah,
and we're only talking about the other person,
yeah,
then it just doesn't mean that other person's not crazy. It just means, oh, that other person is all kinds of I don't know. Like one day, I think it'll really get out what the hell was going on in New York with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
No, there are people that want to be with the Jets more than they want to be with Aaron Rodgers. And I never thought in a million years those words would ever come out of my mouth.
No, you got it. But I love it. You use the right 2 words, freaking hilarious. And as long as he ends up on a team I don't care about, I'm like this. I'm ready with the Red Zone channel and the Sunday ticket. I want to see the mess play out.
What does his post NFL career look like now? I thought I knew. I don't know now.
What did you think it was?
Thought he'd just be one of these guys that was on, he'd be the next. It'd be Troy Aikman, because there was always this. He may be the host of Jeopardy, so I've always thought they're telling us that he's going to be on camera when this thing is. He's so mercurial now. I think his Q rating is so low. Like it would not be the same as hiring Tom Brady. or even Troy Aikman. It would just, I don't think people like him anymore.
No, it's not about broadcasting, I think, at all. I think it's going to be about, he'll still maybe do like the stuff on the McAfee show. Maybe he has the weirdest podcast ever. And then he'll get into like the CBD business or like ayahuasca treatments or something like that.
He's the Kanye West of the NFL. Or the Randy Quaid, that in 10 years, we're just going to be like, we don't even really pay attention to him anymore. When he says something crazy, we're just going to go.
He either on the McAfee show or on another podcast, he's going to say something in like 2 to 2.5 years that will blow everybody's mind. And then the next 5 times that happens, it'll just be, like you said, it'll feel like Kanye. It'll go down.
Did you see what Kanye did last night?
I did not.
He took it down. He basically said, I don't want to get this wrong.
Okay. Please don't.
Well, because there's a word that I can't say that just because he typed it doesn't mean that I can just say it, you know?
Okay. Real quick, Mark has an idea for what Aaron Rodgers
let me give you a buy or sell, and then I'll read you the tweet, okay?
Teach yoga with Ricky. Mark, I don't think Ricky wants that. I don't think Ricky
Williams wants to hang with. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a good hang, and I think that's the problem. And I think we thought 5 years ago Aaron Rodgers was a cool hang.
Yes.
And as it turns out, it's like, no, he thinks he's the smartest man on earth, and he's a total jackass. And that actually sounds like the last thing in the world I would ever want to hang out with. Buy or sell, number 5, prime on prime, pick any version of these women that you want to. Ironically, I suppose I didn't realize it. Now I realize it. It subconsciously happened. Mm-hmm. Olivia Munn, prime on prime, hotter than Tia Carrere.
Tia Carrere. You'll be proud to know that we were driving around the other day and a Tia Carrere song from like the Wayne's World soundtrack pops up on my wife's playlist. It was fantastic. Okay. Prime on prime. Olivia Munn, hotter than Tia Carrere. This is a pretty good battle. And I love them both. Both just really high quality, hot brunettes. It's a hotter than. Boy. I think I might sell and go with Tia.
Ooh.
I think I might sell and go with Tia.
Prime on prime.
Yeah, prime on prime. That's like Wayne's World 1, for me. Tia Carrere, Olivia Munn. I mean, Olivia's gorgeous, but I'll sell and go Tia Carrere for some. Maybe it's because I just heard the song. Why You Want to Break My Heart? I'm gonna go with Tia. What would you do?
All right, those are my 5.
Would you go Olivia?
No, I think it's the right answer.
Okay. That's a
I
close
think
one.
Olivia Munn is more my general style, but Tia Carrere, like in her prime, was just
she was so amazing. So amazing.
Breathtakingly sexy.
Isn't Olivia Munn with John Mulaney? Do I have that right?
I think that might be right. I don't remember though. I
think they're together and maybe even have had a kid or 2.
Okay, so can I read you the Kanye tweet?
Yes, please do.
Now look.
Now wait, take your buy or sell down. I don't want it to be. Okay. We don't want it to infect this incredible literature.
All right. So when I say the R word, you know what that is, right? Like we're talking about.
I know what the R word is. Yes. Yes.
Like a word that got said a lot,
and
then we realized like we probably shouldn't say that about kids.
An insensitive word discussing the mentally challenged.
Yes. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
This was apparently quickly taken down, but I'm looking at a screenshot of it. By the way, this was edited. So what I'm about to read you is the edited version of the tweet.
Not the first draft, kids. At least we can give him that. There were edits.
There was an edit, and then there was a takedown, which the old I'm going to edit and then take that is the rare double combo. So here we go.
Yeah.
Woo. Wait, has anyone ever seen Jay-Z and Beyonce's younger kids? There are. No, like literally. And this is why artificial insemination is such a blessing. Having our children is a choice.
Wow.
That's who Aaron Rodgers is going to be in 10 years, man.
Oh,
and we're going to do with – look, Kanye West has become the guy you can't even really acknowledge anymore. Nobody claims Kanye.
Right.
There's no part of Kanye West that culturally no longer resonates. He is ick everywhere.
Oh, that's so bad.
Even people who are like, man, I love College Dropout, but like, ugh, I can't even like play it anymore because Kanye says shit like that.
That is so gross. Oh my God. All right, Catch.
He did take it down though. So like
Thank goodness.
Somebody took over his Twitter account and tied him down and deleted that.
Yeah, thank goodness we don't know what the first draft looked like of that.
Full transparency. I only, it's one of those things where I heard people talking about Kanye this morning and it was like, oh man. And it was like, Kanye's trash. Y'all got to stop propping him up, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, in my mind, I was like, what did Kanye do? And Kanye went below my bar.
That's sad. Yeah.
I was like, whatever Kanye did, it can't be that. It can't be as bad as I think it could possibly be. And I was like, oh, he's talking about someone's potentially like
talking about people's children. What are we
talking about? Somebody's like, and so what he would be even like if he's literally correct, because I don't know this, right? Like I don't know. What he would literally be saying is that Beyonce and Jay-Z have a mentally handicapped child, which people all over the world do. Like it's pretty common, and people deal with it, and that doesn't lessen the love and value or anything. So
that's just
to go on and call two people out and say, have we ever seen their children? You know why we don't? Because they shouldn't exist, and them existing, that was a choice.
Yeah, there's about 10 layers of wrong to that one.
Like at some point, this is where I will turn people off sometimes, but I'm like, euthanasia is not a terrible idea all the time.
Just don't tweet that
because
out.
if you told me we never heard from Kanye West ever again, and you told me, Jeff, you don't ever have to know what happened, right? Kanye's just going to disappear from the public forever. I'm cool. I don't need to know. Just whatever. I don't ever need to see Kanye tweet again.
Just promise me that if we're discussing Kanye, don't you now go to social media and put out a Kanye-like post about Kanye.
I just said it at the very tail end of the show.
Yes. Okay.
Because I want to do it. I knew you probably hadn't seen it.
I definitely had not. All right,
now
Catch,
you don't need to go see it. You're informed. You now know, we're at sewer levels with Kanye.
Yeah, that is gross.
And literally, what could he type now that would go below the new bar?
Yeah, that's
I don't
rough.
know. I don't know. It may no longer exist.
That is rough. Yeah, I was just caught up to the point of the wife in the naked dress thing. That's as far as I had gotten.
Well, I thought you might have been at he's talking about Jewish people lately. He's got, it's I honestly thought, he's going to go anti-Semitic. And I was like, well, that's terrible. But I've seen that from him before. That wouldn't be, that would be meeting the bar. He went below the bar. He was like, you know what? There wasn't enough shock value in talking about Jewish people. What could I say that takes it below the bar? And I was like, some kids. Why didn't we call out Make-A-Wish kids? Kanye should have tweeted out, why do we make dreams come true for Make-A-Wish kids? That's a choice. We don't have to make that choice. Jesus Christ, Kanye.
Yeah. All right.
That might be it. He might have to go after Make-A-Wish kids. That might be the only thing left.
Now you're giving him ideas. What are you doing? What is happening?
I'm watching this show, and I will judge anybody who tweets at Kanye and says, hey, man, new material. Bam, here you go.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, we don't need to do that.
I made this snippet for you. Just so you know, I may retire from YouTube. I will retire from doing shows if he comes after the Make-A-Wish kids, because I will feel like the same way Prize Picks will listen to us do our Prize Pick shows and adjust the lines on Texas players.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, hammer the Matthew Golden 0.5 touchdown. And then it's like, hey, that's a Red Devil all of a sudden. If Kanye steals my horrible idea, I will never do a show again, because that will just mean that I really have contributed something terrible to society. And like, I'll at that point know that it's time to go. And I'm comfortable with that. Like, I'm comfortable.
Yeah. And in a weird way, the Make-A-Wish kids kind of make an appearance in my buy or sell. You ready, Catch?
Oh my God.
Not really, but just kind of.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
You'll know when you see it. Buy or sell number one, Catch. Deep down, you think most Texas Hoops fans want a loss and a new head coach tonight?
So, I think the majority of Texas fans will want to win tonight. Because I think the majority of Texas fans aren't dialed in. They're not the most passionate, but they're also not the ones that are required to fill the Moody Center.
Right.
You know, like the majority of Texas fans, I think, are so mainstream that being on is being on, and you just can't root for the team to lose. So I'm gonna sell.
All right. Back to last night and tonight in a way. Buy or sell number two. You think all play-in games should be the 16 versus 16 variety, like the close one last night?
Sell. I think it should be all at-large teams.
You think it should be all the 11 versus 11 kind?
Even if it means 11 versus 11 and 12 versus 12s?
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's the last – ultimately, I guess it would be the last 8 teams that get in. So it would be the 11s and the 10s.
Yeah. Ultimately, yeah, I agree with you ultimately. I feel like, though, those 16 matchups seem to get us more drama sometimes. So I don't know.
Well, the games might be better, but I mean, sometimes – look, what do we find out about North Carolina? It's like, oh, this is why them getting in I was kind of okay with. We know that North Carolina's optimal level is high. We do.
Yeah, they can beat people, yeah.
And Texas is the same way. It was like, you know what? Texas on its best day. And this is where Texas fans would like, I couldn't quite understand, because we've seen them beat. If A&M makes the Sweet 16, nobody's going to blink. It won't happen. Everybody realizes Texas A&M is a pretty good team. Texas beat them 2 out of 3 times this year. Like, they're good enough to beat good teams. And so I like – that's why sometimes in those 11 seed games, they'll sneak a power in. And honestly, it's kind of what you're hoping for from Texas tonight. You're hoping its best brand of basketball is better than Xavier's. Now, if these teams play 10 times, how many times does Texas play its optimal level? I mean, does it even happen once? That's the rub with this Texas team, is that the optimal level isn't always seen, but I expect them to win.
All right, Catch, here it comes. Just like with Kanye, we have not seen any promos yet of John Cena going after Make-A-Wish kids. But buy or sell number 3.
Have that in your –
So far, you give John Cena as a heel an A.
Sell. His promo really was not good. But the crowd response to what was happening was ridiculously good. It didn't matter. Like, They carried him the way Bret the Hitman Hart could carry someone in a match. It was like, oh my God, that was one of the best matches we've ever seen. It was like, well, that's what happens when Bret the Hitman Hart's involved in a match. And I think that I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know who the crowd was the first time I saw it. As a matter of fact, the English was so clear that I did not think, oh, this is a foreign crowd. I just didn't know where it was. I didn't know what crowd it was. But I thought Cena could have been better the first time. I've seen it now 3 or 4 times. He wasn't. The more I watch it, the more I'm like, God, Cena sucked, actually. Like, you know, I think you said it on Orange Bloods. He probably could have said less, and it would have been more impactful. Like, you know, sometimes you had no one to exit stage right, and when they were rabid for so long, it felt like he was waiting for them to get less rabid, and I don't know that necessarily needed to happen.
And next week is Scotland on Monday. That will be wild to watch. All right, Kevin.
Did you notice my thing with Cody?
A little bit.
I thought that was exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah, now every time I see Cody, I think of his clothes.
Like I've seen him wear that getup, the same getup.
Yeah.
All the time. It's his gear. And like, I get it, but if a guy that wears that gear all the time has diversity in his gear, Ric Flair had suit game diversity. And you never saw Ric Flair talk about, jet riding, high profile, all that. You never saw that and thought to yourself, that motherfucker wears the same suit every goddamn day. Like he doesn't. You never thought of that about Rick. He changed his robe game up. Rick would come out in robes, and it would be like, oh, which robe is Rick gonna come out to tonight? What's his robe? Every time Cody comes out, it's like, damn, he's trying to be sharp dressed man. Can we just see some diversity a little bit? I don't want you looking like Peaky Blinders all the time.
Yeah, he wore the vest and the chain for you. I don't know what you want. I thought he looked incredibly sharp.
I thought he was good.
Yeah,
I thought he was the best part of the wrestler dynamic of that promo. But the crowd was epic. And honestly, if it had been a bad crowd or a lukewarm crowd, that whole thing would have fallen really flat. And instead, it felt like a historical moment. Like, I'll remember that.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes from here in crazy wrestling world. All right, Catch, let's throw in a birthday here. Bruce Willis, 70 years old today. You have a go-to Bruce Willis movie.
It's Die Hard.
Original Die Hard.
I don't think Die Hard's a Christmas movie, but I think Die Hard's one of the best movies of the last century.
It is a badass. And hopefully Bruce Willis is doing well at 70. Such a sad story he's gone through the last couple of years. Hopefully Bruce is doing all right.
You know what, though? Hey, that's what I'll say for Bruce. Wasn't it George Carlin that did the bit about living? Who did the bit about living 68 Sammy Davis Jr. years versus like 100?
I'm not sure.
Somebody did a bit once about would you rather live 68 Sammy Davis Jr. years versus 100 Mother Teresa years?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll know with all due respect to Mother Teresa and those extra 32 years, I'll take my 68 of Sammy Davis Jr.
Right.
Hey, man, Bruce Willis.
Put in a good 70.
I mean, we were talking about taking 8-4 before the season. If you were to believe in reincarnation, so you were talking to yourself right before reincarnation, right? So you've lived one of your lives and now you're going to forget your old lives. But before you do, like maybe you're introduced into what you're about to become. And if like they offer you a deal and it's like you only get 70 years, but there's 70 Bruce. I'm not even letting you finish the sentence.
Right. In fact, if you give me 70 years and you tell me that only like 38 of them are Bruce Willis years, I still take that, right? I'm still going.
People would, yes.
One of my favorite performances of his showed up the other day on a movie channel, and I love him in supporting roles, but Pulp Fiction I hadn't seen Pulp Fiction in a while, and it happened to be part of Pulp Fiction. I'm like, God, he's great in that movie. I love Bruce Willis in a lot of stuff.
Think about how far back we go. That's the thing. Like I hear Bruce makes it to 70, and I just have a hard time. Like I hear that, and I'm like, you said Bruce made it to 70. And I know he's not healthy, and I was like, right on, man. Bruce made it to 70, but like I didn't think, I didn't do that with Gene Hackman either. I was like, Gene Hackman made it into his 90s, and like he had 92 Gene Hackman years. Most people 95. In the world don't get a month of Bruce Willis or Gene Hackman years. So
yeah, it's true. It true.
I think when he goes, we'll all be sad, but like that dude lived life. So good on him.
Happy birthday to Bruce there. And finally, Catch, for no apparent reason at all, Prime on Prime, Gemma Chan, hotter than Lucy Liu.
Whoa. Where were our brains today?
I don't know what you're talking about. I just came up with I don't know.
I'm going to buy.
I think I would too.
Slightly.
I think I would too.
I don't say it lightly. It's with some reservation, but it's a buy.
Yeah, I love me some Lucy Liu, but Catch, there's a couple things I've seen Gemma in the last, I don't know, 2 to 3 years, because I believe she's in both the Eternals in the Marvel world, and of course she was in Crazy Rich Asians. Good grief. Like every time.
So that everybody knows the backstory on this. Earlier today, when I was talking to Chad, I said, funny thing happened last night. My wife, kind of out of nowhere, tells me that she thinks I'm into Asian women. And I was like, no, honey, I think I'm into, I like all women. I do. I like white women, black women, Asian women, Indian women, Hispanic women. I like all women. I love all women. You show me a beautiful woman, and like, I'm in. And she's like, no, but I think you like Asian women. And I was like, well, okay, sure. I'm not going to fight you on it. Maybe I do. Like, I'm not cognizant of it, right? And so today I had an eye doctor appointment. That was the first time I had been with this particular doctor. And she turned out to be an amazing looking Asian woman. And so I was just on the tip of the brain today. So not surprisingly, in retrospect, both of us had a theme in our buy or sell.
We had the conversation, and it might have affected.
I just want my wife. And look, tomorrow, Chad, I love black women too. So I want to use that inspiration or Hispanic women.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm okay in any direction that you ever go.
There you go. The Jeff Ketchum.
I am a fan of all the clubs.
The Jeff Ketchum tour of all women coming your way on House Divided. We'll just do that. We'll just keep going.
I've never been disappointed at like seeing a beautiful woman, no matter what she looks like, and been like, oh, we should have been like this. Never. I'm like, oh, all right. Good for her.
There it is. That is how we buy or sell. Before we get out of here, one more reminder.
Hey.
Yes.
What part of yes did you not understand?
Absolutely.
You didn't watch the show back in the day when Chad did his Tina Turner thing? Because Tina was in like late 60s and Chad was like, hey, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Huge fan. Huge fan, Barb's 10. You are not wrong. You are not wrong at all. At all. All right. Let's remind everybody the tournament watch party.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I was taking it down and you took it down, and
we both
you've
took it
been
down.
Very touchy-feely on the chats. Do I need to take it down, or are you going to do it?
Yep. You take that down. I'm going to put up the watch party deal.
Okay.
There we go. Come see us at TCH Social Austin tomorrow. We're going to do the show from TCH Social Austin, which I'm sure will be crazy, especially if we end up in discussions of beautiful women. Then we're going to be hanging and watching games. 11:15 is
beautiful games.
11. Yeah, that's true. 11:15 is the first one. I think the second game tips about 11:30, 11:40. They space them out too much at the beginning now. So we're going to have those two going on. But by the time we get done with the show, those two games will be coming towards the end. And then we'll have all the other games of the afternoon and early evening as well. So come see us. TCH Social Austin 183 and Anderson Mill. It's going to be a good time tomorrow. If you're looking for a place to come watch the tournament, come check it out. Somebody in the chat earlier, Catch, asked about drink specials. Did we get any confirmation on drink specials? I didn't want to say it if it wasn't real.
Oh, by the way, Barb says I'm pre-stripper DJ. So excuse me, Barbs.
Nice. That's a long time.
Golly, that's early zone days, right?
Yeah. That's way back. Pre-stripper DJ would mean like 2003, 2002, because Brian Jones is what helped start the stripper DJ thing. And
I know. Like that's
yeah, that had to be pre-02.
Hey, let's give Barb's a volleyball clap. Like
Barb's 10 been around.
Hey man, that we love that, Barb's. We do.
Fantastic.
I don't have confirmation on drink specials.
Okay.
But I'll get the update.
There you go. We're going to see what we can do. For those of you asking about drink specials, they got good stuff out there. Either way.
I think there will be, but like, I don't want to make promises, but yeah, my guess is they
Yeah,
won't have us out there without some drink specials.
We have not had the particulars yet, but come on out there and ask, and we'll figure out what's going on tomorrow at TCH Social Austin. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, getting those notifications. If you didn't like on the way in, go ahead and like on the way out. Football with friends this evening. No outsiders tonight because of basketball. The fellas want to watch the game tonight, see if Texas can get in the tournament. And then again, we'll be at TCH Social Austin tomorrow for the show. Anwar will have Old Fashioned tomorrow at 9 as normal also. So check it all out. Thank you for the support. And we will talk to you tomorrow at noon from TCH Social Austin. Y'all take care.
Come join us.
He'll be there. Come meet Jeff Ketchum. If you've never met Jeff Ketchum and you've always wanted to, you can point to. He'll be just sitting right there.
Oh, you can.
It'll be great. It'll be like, oh my God, Jeff. And then you walk up and you point and we'll be like, bah.
You too someday will be able to say, I know the back of that bald head from anywhere.
That's right. That is right. Like women from all over the world can talk about.
Funeral
You'll be able to as well. You'll be able to as well. This is House Divided. We are Orange Bloods.